Three, two, one. All right. And we're back, and I'm here with Artem Petrenko, Managing Director, Sigma Sweden Software AB. I've read that your passions include technology, business in all aspects, and that you find it very rewarding to bring innovation to your clients, work with, quote, awesome people.
Yeah,
I agree. That's awesome. So Sigma is one of the great players in Ukrainian tech, but it's also an international company. So your perspective, Artyom, will be very valuable in today's discussion. So as I understand it, you're going to talk a little bit about suppliers and what to look for in a supplier, among other things.
yeah, exactly. The logic behind the subject, why we have selected that specific topic, it's all about the Ukraine and different number of companies in Ukraine. And as Andreas mentioned in his speech, it's around 3,000 to 5,000 companies in Ukraine, and it's really hard to choose the right supplier, basically. And I think what we have learned so far would be also valuable for all the companies who are looking the suppliers in Ukraine. Thanks. And I will start. With a short introduction about myself. My name is Artem Petrenko. I'm originally from Ukraine, but the last 3 years live in Sweden, in Stockholm. Overall, more than 17 years in the IT industry, and been starting it a very long time ago. I have 2 master's degree and very inspired by family, yachting, and business overall. And we will be talking today about how to find the supplier for your companies and businesses. A little bit about Sigma Software. When the company started back in 2002, there were only 5 persons who initiated this company. And basically today we are more than 1,300 engineers. So we were on with the development of the industry in Ukraine from the very beginning. And we've been on different ages. And our understanding of the industry and the way of doing business was also transforming quite significantly from the very beginning to where we are right now. And I'm sure when we are going to talk in 5-10 years from now, the understanding will be completely different. So that would be probably very important to consider. And so first of all, I wanted to start with that phrase, why the companies are looking for suppliers. And if I would be looking for a supplier, I would say it's a real challenge to find the right one. Although the common ground from the Deloitte report that they have published during the several years in a row shows the different controversial signals over here. The thing is that today, in 2020, the major driving for this to initiate the discussion with the suppliers and finding the new suppliers is basically the cost reduction. Although a few years ago, the cost was not even on the list. The top priorities were identified as a disruptive outsourcing and finding the disruptive partners who could innovate together with the customers, those who are looking at the suppliers. And basically, but back into 2020, the cost become a priority. And today it's still the priority, although the market is developing and growing. Of course, we all know the reasons behind this, which is related to the pandemic situation. Although, if we go to the different type of the suppliers, which all of them, I'm sure, are available in the Ukrainian market. This chart basically shows us a different level of the maturity of the companies or suppliers that are available today. But from another perspective, it's also very dependent on what are the core targets and core goals to find the suppliers and engage the suppliers. Basically, we identify several different layers, or 4 layers, if to speak in particular, regarding the supplier evolution. So first of all, of course, it's very important to assess the technical expertise. But the thing is that in many cases, it stops over there. So when the customers are asking about the availability or some specific tech expertise, and then do not consider all other layers, which are very important in order to work long term. Because if you talk about the short-term expertise, like give me one or two .NET Java engineers and so on, then of course it's a first layer. And it's really important to understand that next layers, they are adding a lot of values, and it's about okay, now we have a team, and then the team needs to work and how the team will be working. Here in place come in the delivery processes, when we need to make sure we're working in the right way, we're doing the right things, and we are employing all the best practices available at the market in order to deliver the best possible quality. But then the next layer, where we have like everything is working, all is good, just perfect thing. But then, okay, but what next? How we can improve? And from our perspective, it's really important when finding a supplier to ask those questions, how those continuous improvements measures are normally done. What are the processes behind? What is the culture behind the company in order to develop this further, and how to implement those improvements? Although it's not the top, the next layer would be thinking in business goals to the customers and develop the partner mindset. So basically, it could be quite, and there are plenty of examples. One of them, when some of our customers, they approaching us and say, hey, we need to develop this type of the portal whatsoever. But in reality, when we are looking into the details and specifics, there is no need to develop the portal. The thing is that the audience, it's completely mobile, and it should be completely other type of the solution developed on the market. So it's actually both win-win situation when the partner could advise based on the business goals and priorities of the customer to the right path. And of course, it needs to be developed further on. So here I will share just a few takeaways that we have developed. So it's not about like some suppliers are better or worse than others. It's basically to find in those who are perfectly fit in your needs and limitations, because it's something really, really important. The next point, when considering the supplier and finding the supplier, is not about today. It's about the future and how the supplier will be able to support you over the future. I mentioned I'm very passionate about sailing, and this is something that is completely changing constantly in the sailing world. The wind is changing, the weather is changing. The same goes with market. The market is developing, it's changing, constantly developing new ways of doing things, which increase the productivity. And when finding the partner, try to focus not only on the short-term things, but also on the long-term vision and how the partner will be able to support you from the long-term perspective. And another point, it's about the companion and partnership relations. And here the hint is that in order to work with the partner, the customer also need to be a partner. So they also need to engage the supplier or the delivery organization within the business and sharing a lot of information in order for them to have this general context. Because sometimes some customers, they try to put the tasks on the engineers. And when we talk about the culture of the Ukrainian engineers, I would say they're very much engaged and trying to be quite proactive with advising different solutions. So in a nutshell, when looking for a partner and companion, very important to mention that try to focus on and understand how the supplier see the broad vision and the overall market perspective. What type of the expertise and what type of the engineering capabilities they do have, and what type of the flexibility and contribution they can provide. The thing is that, and behind the flexibility, it's not about like following the orders and implementing the different demands. It's rather than complementing to the core services that you are providing to the customers, and then delivering the additional values, which are quite important. So that was probably short. I hope I will manage to do it within time frame.
I think it was good. It was very interesting to get your perspective on this.
Yep.
And I think a lot of people who are looking at Ukraine are struggling with who to pick, because I
Exactly.
also mentioned there are so many suppliers today.
Indeed, but it's good. It drives the competition, and it basically drives a lot of market standards increasing, which is good for the whole environment.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to have time for a very quick question, and because we're running a bit behind schedule. So in your presentation, you talked a bit about the different things people look for when assessing suppliers. Like the traditional factors are time, cost, and quality. And you mentioned that cost made a comeback recently. What do you think is next? What's going to happen with people's expectations of what factors they will look for in a supplier?
I have a takeaway right now from Matthias, who said that it's really hard to assess at the very beginning in startups, and basically it's really hard to assess because you need to assess the people, not the ready-made product. So the idea, I think, the same. It's really hard to assess right now the companies and selection process, because basically it's about the people and the way they're working. And the companies, they may look alike, but still it's it's something they need customers, they need to evaluate. But talking about the future, I think that long-term perspective will take place, and will take the major and important point when finding the suppliers. So it's not only about the cost, it's not only about the quality. I mean, of course, it needs to be done, and it needs to be in place, but it's also about the long-term thinking and the variety of options that the suppliers can provide to the customers.
All right. Yeah, long-term practice.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Artem. We're going to move on now quite quickly. So thank you for coming, and I'll return in up to half a minute.
Thanks, Sebastian. Yeah.
With Leo Bergheld, who's the founder and CEO of SwapGrid, a Swedish tech company that works with Ukraine. So yeah, I'm still not sure if you guys hear me now when we're counting down to close the stream, but I don't think you do.